Hello there, everybody, ladies and gentlemen in the American Jury and Bulldog Nation. This is a first for me. We're going to do a 1-hour podcast Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, where I'm going to dive into the issues of the day, and I'm going to talk not just about politics. I'm going to talk a lot about legal issues because they're near and dear to my heart, and I've got the lane. We'll also talk about life. I plan to inspire, inform, and entertain you. As I used to joke on the big one, the 3 I's. So stay tuned and get ready because we're going to let it rip. All right, I remember when I was on WLW radio, Daryl Parks, who was the program director, said that they used to have a good time asking somebody to come out and just start talking about any issue for a couple minutes. And he says it would blow you away how few people were able to continue a conversation to themselves about one issue for just 2 or 3 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this for an hour. Now, we're going to get this set up as we get going. I'm going to have the ability to have guests. I'm going to have the ability to respond to your texts and your messages while we're here live. But I want to thank Roger Kaufman for getting us set up. I want to thank my assistant producer, Sabrina Kane, and my mates here also, the Brit. Now, I've laid out here, the purpose of this show is to lay out and give you a flavor of what I plan on doing. And I'm going to do that over the course of this next hour. I want all of you to know that when you think about podcasts, think about all the political podcasts there are. There's a lot of them, aren't there? And when you think about all the other types of podcasts, you have to look at yourself when you're going to do one, like myself, and say, well, what am I going to talk about? How is my podcast going to be different? And I just want to tell you that I think my podcast is going to be different than all those other podcasts in the country, regionally and locally, because I plan on discussing the topics in my lane that no one else has, and that's this. I battle every single day the man. I battle corporate America, corporate healthcare. I battle government. I battle the system. I battle the media. And no one else in the tri-state does that with the legal background that I have. The other thing that I'm really proud of is when I comment about politics, I just don't regurgitate whatever anybody else is saying. So you can count on me for some original comments about what's going on in politics. I actually have a little list here of things that I only seem to say. But let's dive in, and I'm just going to go across my desk here and pull out some things and explain to you why I think these are important to talk about. It is really sad that in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, and this probably applies to all of you that are watching wherever you are, is that we have one daily newspaper, and for all intents and purposes, it has crashed and burned. And the reason why it crashed and burned is it forgot its audience. Hamilton County, which is where Cincinnati is, has turned blue. But every other county in northern Kentucky and in Cincinnati area and southwest Ohio and southeast Indiana, because we're in a tri-state area, are conservatives. But our Enquirer just went full-blown left, the topics that they cover. Now, I'm going to use this as an example of how bad it is with our local media. So this is a story, and I really like this guy. David Pepper is the former Ohio Democratic Party chairman. His father was the P&G chairman. And he decided he's going to start doing a book project, Starfield podcast. And look what the Enquirer gave him. They gave him a picture and they gave him a story. Now, this is what the Courier-Journal did, reran in the Cincinnati Enquirer by Joe Girth from USA Today from down the Courier-Journal. He said Republican attacks put all all lives of all immigrants at risk. And he did a picture showing just like 20 people saying, supporters, first rally. So he was trying to embarrass me and embarrass Patriots Day Freedom Fest. Now, then when they did the story, the Inquirer did the story on Freedom Fest, they had a picture of Junior and they don't mention my name. Note the size of the article. Now, when Kyle Rittenhouse comes in for T.J. Roberts and speaks for 90 seconds, he gets a whole page. Now, you see what we battle in the tri-state and what people battle all across this country. And this is what I sent him, Joe Girth. I find amusement with so-called journalists such as yourself who are always writing false or exaggerated diatribes regarding so many is dishonest and unfair. Last year, you focused on the man who wrote a book comparing Trump to God. A book I found ridiculous and refused the author access to the Trumps. This year, you misrepresent in false light the size of the crowd. We had 10,000 people there. And used the word disgraced relative to me. In his article, he called me disgraced. You are simply not a good person or a serious journalist. You're a biased left-wing hack. This email is not, though, for purposes of wasting my time giving you a piece of my mind, but the document you are not to ever come upon my farm or any property I own under my promise to file criminal trespass charges against you. I tried to be fair to you, but that has been a naive mistake that will never happen again. I am far from disgraced in any capacity. I do more every day and have done more for mistreated citizens of this country than most. So F yourself, you pathetic needle, bug, effing, slothy, yellow so-called journalists. You couldn't fairly report on any event. And do you know what he sends back in response? He sends back in response, he says, from you, I take that as a compliment. My response, of course you do, because you are that deep into your sick, effed up world. Your lucky dueling is a crime. You carry on a phony charade of being a righteous voice when you are the very worst in journalism. I am 1,000 a better human being than you. I will publicly humiliate you. Now, think about what Trump would do. You know, there's three people that I always think, what would they do? Sorry, I'm a sinner, not a saint. Jesus isn't one of them. It's what would Trump would do. Trump always fires back on his enemies. He doesn't let them get away with it. And you know what that does? No one talks about this in the national media. What that does is that keeps people off Trump's ass. Can you imagine the people that keep their mouth shut about Trump because they don't want the treatment? I can tell you right now, there's some people that keep their mouth publicly quiet about me because they don't want to get the treatment. Now, this came from a liberal reporter. On Saturday, she attended an event held by notorious extremist Eric Deters. Notorious extremist Eric Deters. Now let's keep going. Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Cincinnati Children's Hospital was named number one nationally across multiple categories recently. And I'm one of these people that is fair about our hospitals. I am someone who's able to say, you know what, thank God we have a wonderful children's pediatric hospital here in the tri-state area. However, that does not excuse the conduct that they do. I know somebody who works at Cincinnati Children's Hospital who says it is an ongoing criminal enterprise. Ongoing criminal enterprise. Cincinnati Children's Hospital knowingly allowed Dr. Durrani to do unnecessary spine surgeries on children, and nobody at Cincinnati Children's Hospital was ever prosecuted for a crime. Let that sink in. Cincinnati Children's Hospital uses threats of child social services when they screw up and parents start asking questions. They do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I support doctors. I support nurses. I support healthcare workers. I do not support the corporate healthcare suite. These so-called nonprofits, hospitals, make billions of dollars. They have money stacked. And what do they do in their corporate healthcare suite? They corporate healthcare us to death. It's why there's a nursing shortage, not just because of the mandates, but because they've had enough of the corporate healthcare crap. Now, something else I'm going to cover. Things only I say. I had this out here for today's show. I am the only person in the country, when they start talking about fact-checking, misinformation, so forth and so on, I'm the only person in the country that says nobody tells you that you have the right to be wrong. The whole concept of fact-checking and misinformation is beyond absurd, not just because it's censorship, but because it makes no sense, because these people act as if everything that comes out of your mouth and my mouth has to be right. No, it doesn't. The free speech protects us from being wrong. Free speech does not protect defamation, for example. I'm also the only one in this country. Look around. Does any of these political pundits, they always fall on the side of Russia and making peace with Russia or supporting Ukraine? I'm the only person in the country that says, screw them both. Ukraine is corrupt. We have wasted way too much money there. Putin's an evil dictator. By the way, I support 100% how Trump deals with these dictators. Those of you that don't like Trump, remember what Colin Powell said? Colin Powell said he had to shake a lot of hands with a lot of people he didn't want to shake hands with. It's called diplomacy. Something else I do, I'll make bold predictions. I made the prediction that Kamala Harris's campaign would be falling apart by now, and it is, and that Trump will win handedly. I'm the only one in the country that told you why JD, this blows me away. I was telling Junior when Donald Trump Jr. came down to Freedom Fest, I was talking to him on the ride from the airport, and I said, it cracks me up. Only I am smart enough to know why J.D. Vance was chosen as vice president. Because the generation of the Trump family that's going to be next, like Junior and Eric and Kimberly Guilfoyle and all them, they trust J.D. Vance to carry the banner of MAGA more than anybody else. They didn't trust DeSantis with that because DeSantis ran against Trump. There might be peace now, but there wasn't then. Nikki Haley, same thing. Those of you that wanted one of them to be picked as vice president, are you kidding me? And look, after the vice presidential debate, it was proven right. I'm the only one that calls out the Liberty Movement, Thomas Massey, and Rand Paul with all of their anti-Trump. They only want to control. They think they own the Constitution. I'm the only one that does that. I'm the only one that goes after corporate health care. Judy Claibs, the editor and publisher of the Northern Kentucky Tribune, used to be the editor of the Kentucky Post, told me, former friend, now enemy, told me that she didn't think it was good politics for me to run for governor and go after St. Elizabeth Medical Center, this monmouth. Hell, you see how they think? Oh, you don't think so, Judy? I thought you were liberal. I'm also the only one that goes after the local media. Now, I'm also going to cover issues. I want to give you a perspective of some things that no one else will give you. People are talking about issue 2, the amendment number 2 in Kentucky. What this would do is basically, for lack of a better clarity, is school choice. It's a school choice. So voting yes gives a school choice. Voting no doesn't. I've only saved a few of these. These are all the direct mail pieces that have pounded my mailbox. I can tell you I've had 5 to 10 more of these saying vote yes. I've gotten one mailer that says vote no. Now, the Northern Kentucky superintendents of the public school system just said that you should vote no. Guess who said vote yes? The bishop and the messenger. So this is very much a private school, public school issue. And I can tell you this, you know who gets out and votes the most? Those private schoolers, you just watch. I predict that the amendment is going to pass because it is funded. The other issue is not funded. Now, if you watch my news reports, this is something I'm going to do on this show, and I will dive deep down. By the way, today, I'm always going to bring up some history. I'm going to bring up two things on history here. First off, today in history, on October the 14th, 1066, is the Battle of Hastings. We should all care about the Battle of Hastings because the Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror from Normandy decided that he had a claim to the throne of England. Harold, who was the king for a very short period of time, thought he did. Now, here's what happened. Jamie Spinley, I bet you didn't know this. So here's what happened. Harold got invaded from the north by a Viking king who thought he should be king of England. It wasn't called England at the time. But anyway, he should be king. So Harold had to march north and beat the Viking king. On his way back from fighting the Vikings is when William the Conqueror, who came over from his ships from over the channel, met good old Harold at the Battle of Hastings. So Harold was tired. He just got finished fighting the Vikings. So what happened is, and this is great, William the Conqueror did the old ruse of acting like you were retreating. Harold fell for it. Harold's troops chased William the Conqueror's forces into a trap, and an arrow struck Harold right in the eye and killed him. And that's what happened in this day in history, the Battle of Hastings. It's also Columbus Day, not Indigenous Peoples Day. Now, I just got finished reading this book, and it just is unbelievable. It's called The American Rebels by Nina Sankovich. And it tells the story of Hancock, Adams, and the Quincy families, how they flamed the revolution. And the Quincy family is a family that you have not heard of very much in history. But the Quincy family had everything to do with starting the American Revolution as the Adams family and John Hancock, who, by the way, they were all related. The Quincy's, the Hancocks, and the Adams played together as little boys and girls in school. But it's just a great book. Now I am rereading. It's funny that Truman just flashed up there. He's got my favorite presidents on roll there. I'm now rereading David McCullough's Truman book. Now, I'm also going to cover some politics, deep dive into some politics. And some of those politics include what's going on in the world with Trump. Trump went to Coachella out in California. And again, people are wondering, why would he go to Coachella out in California and do a rally? Well, again, I think I'm the only one in the country that points out the reason why he does a rally there, and it's a big rally like he does the New York rallies, is to show the entire country that even in these deep blue states, he's drawing massive crowds. It irritates the Dems. It excites us, does it not? And you're going to have people maybe that are on the ledge either way, could go Harris or go Trump, in battleground states that see things like that, and it's a positive influence. We also reported in today's news that Trump received the unanimous support of the Border Patrol Union. Can you imagine that? Does that shock you? Hell no. Isn't it amazing how Kamala Harris has ran from being the border czarina? She's not the border czar. She's the czarina. I'm the first to call her that. She wasn't the border czar. She was the czarina. Trump, you know how Trump says no tax on tips? He's so smart because everybody hates taxes. He says no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. And now he's saying full deduction for buying a generator. And you think about that. As the American president, you should want your citizens prepared. So that makes great sense. He should motivate, a tax incentive motivates everybody to go out and buy a generator. You got a generator, Britt?
No, but I want one.
Well, you should go get one. I'm going to go ahead and brag. I got a $40,000 top-of-the-line generator that when the electricity goes off in my house, it just goes beep for 1 second, and automatically clicks on, it powers the entire house. Are you jealous, Britt?
No.
Okay.
But I have two of them.
Trump says he wants military aircraft to protect him from Iranians. What does Joe Biden say? Well, we won't give you F-16s, but we'll do something, whatever that means. Now, Joe Rogan has been hot and cold with Trump. But boy, when he said he was going to support RFK Jr., MAGA world came down on old Joe Rogan. And what did Joe Rogan do? Joe Rogan backed up really fast. So Joe Rogan apparently is now going to have Trump on his podcast, and I'm sure that will be record-breaking. Trump's also going to have a female town hall meeting. I think that's really smart because that's where he needs to gain. By the way, it's so funny. They're trying to get Walz to act like he's a manly man. You got Obama threatening black men. That's how you get black men to vote for Kamala. Have Barack Obama try to belittle you. That ain't going to work. And then they send Walz out pheasant hunting with a shotgun, and he can't load his shotgun, which leads to all these memes, funny graphics, Elmer Fudd analogies, tampon being put in the shotgun. It's just great. Now, another thing that I do is I get lots of whistleblowers. And when I use the word whistleblower, somebody who tells me the inside scoop on some things. And then I'm able to help people with that information. That's how we brought down the hospitals that were involved in the Durrani litigation. I want to let you know that I had lunch on Friday with an old friend who gave me some inside information that I thought you would find very interesting. If you live in Kenton County and you drive past Pioneer Park and Madison Pike down there, you'll see that they are constructing a big old building on the right-hand side where Rolling Hills was. Well, that is going to be the new headquarters for the Kenton County School Board. Their offices. They're currently leasing offices down at the sanitation district. Now, you can't make this up. My guy gave me an inside scoop that said that right now there's like 45 people that work at the central office, but they're building the building to handle 70. So Kenton County's planning an expansion. I want you to each look at your tax bills that are just hit the mailboxes, and you will see nearly, if you live in Kenton County, half of your tax goes to the Kenton County school system. And they're building a Taj Mahal that's completely unnecessary to build. He also told me, you can't make this up, that you know how they do the HR in Kenton County? They have one person assigned to each facet of HR. So you've got somebody assigned to the school bus drivers. You got an HR person for substitute teachers. You got an HR. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Folks, swamps exist on local, regional, state, and federal levels. Now, another interesting piece of information I got, and I can't tell you the school because that could give it away, but I spoke to somebody who knows a professor in a gigantic national public college. And they said, this teacher said, this professor said, he can tell within 1 to 2 classes tops who went to public school and who went to private school. Again, you wonder why school choice is so important to so many. Just so you know, I'm a product of private school. I went to St. Cecilia Grade School, Covington Latin School, Thomas More College. Then I went to Chase Law School, which is a public school. My children went to public school. One became a lawyer, one became a mom, and one became a yoga instructor. But I'm just telling you, that's, my kids went to public school. If you are really, here's the bottom line on schools. If you are really smart, you can get a great education in a public school, and they got honors programs and everything else. Where public schools fail us is everybody else, because they're just passing everybody through. I talked about this when I ran for governor of Kentucky. I've spoken about it many, many years, decades. I've been on when I was on WLW radio and the other radio stations. I will never understand, ever, how our education system just keeps doing things the way we do them. And the solution, in my opinion, based upon how much people have wasted on useless college educations and the need for trades, is we should do like Germany does. My understanding of, I took German back in Latin school. My understanding of the German education system is by the time you're like in the 8th grade, there's a determination made whether you're going to learn a trade or you're going to go on through education and to college. And when you think about that, with few exceptions, most people by the time you're 8th grade, you got a good basic education and it's time to make a decision. We should have high schools filled up with rooms teaching construction, computers, electronics, plumbing, electric, on and on and on. A car, excavation, a car repair. I mean, you name it. There should be a classroom designated to each one of those trades. Why should a kid who's not going to go to college take algebra 1 and 2? Makes no sense at all. Then I've heard people say, well, what if somebody changes their mind? That's also an easy call. You can have somebody change their mind. You can set up the rule where you change your mind in 1 or 2 years. You just go back. They can either stay in high school for 1 more year, 2 more years, or they just go back and pick it up where they left off. So it's such an easy solution to everything in education, but yet nobody does it. I have to say the reason why I think that they don't do it is because of the power of the unions. It's got to be the power of the unions. It can't be any other reason, right? It just can't. What else do I want to cover here? Okay. The government control over us. Nobody talks about this. And we experience it every day. I experience it. And I fight back against it, even to my detriment. Isn't it amazing in today's world now, the way the world is constructed, that you now can't really live in this world without a cell phone and without a credit card? And I think that's sad. Here are some examples. Now, if you go online and you want to apply for something, you almost now have to do it by electronic forms. Automatic pay, baby. All big corporate America loves automatic pay, don't they? They need a credit card on file. And I'm on the hunt right now, folks. Remember, I do legal consulting. You're not going to tell me that some of these companies, banks, insurance companies, media companies, you name them, you're not going to tell me that they don't have some real screw-ups that are waiting to be discovered. And we need to discover them, hit back hard. I hate when I got to have a credit card on file. And they have complete control and power over you. Now, they'll say, well, we got to make sure we get paid. Well, whatever happened to a one-day float on a check? That's what I like. What else do I want to cover? I'm going to interview a guy soon down in Covington, down in Latonia. They got a dirty water problem, and the water district isn't doing anything about it. I'm going to share life experiences with you. And here is an example of a life experience that I want to share with you. I recently went, I forgot about my car tags, and I recently went to pay all the car tags, like 5 vehicles, pay all these car tags. Not just for me, but for my sons. I'm going to pay all these car tags. You can't make this up. The clerk tells me at the Kenton County Clerk's office, tells me, well, we can't take your money and get these 5 car tags renewed because we're showing an old tax bill that hasn't been paid. like an old tax bill. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure out what tax bill wasn't paid. And I said, so you're telling me that I'm sitting here ready, wanting to pay to get 5 car tags, and I can't get my 5 car tags because of this? And they said, that's right. Now, I thought it was policy, so I contacted Gabrielle Summey, the county clerk, and she said, it's not policy. It is the law. And that really pisses me off. See, this is an example. What if somebody only had enough money to pay for these 2 cars, and there was an old tax bill there and he couldn't pay it? Why wouldn't we want him to pay those 2? I mean, why wouldn't we? And why shouldn't he be allowed to pay those 2? Again, this is an example of what I want to do in this podcast is when you have information and you got stories like that you know 5, 9, 12 and the Inquirer and all of them, they're not going to cover it. They're not going to cover it. You know they're not going to cover it. By the way, mark your calendar, September the 6th, next Saturday, or not next year, Saturday, September 6th, 2025 is going to be the Patriots Day Freedom Fest, and I'm promising some big things, going to do some big things, so make sure that you make it. Now, some more things that I want to cover with you as I'm doing my show, and I mentioned this as law. Now, I do these law videos, and you probably get tired of me talking about the Durrani litigation. I never get tired about the Durrani litigation. But I am going to talk a lot about the legal industry, the court system, the legal system. I know all the secrets. And because I'm not a licensed lawyer and I'm a retired lawyer, I can talk about them. And, you know, my own journey through the system and representing people is just incredible. And, you know, one of the reasons why I bond with Trump, you know, he's a victim of lawfare. Well, I've been a victim of lawfare too, and in a different kind of way. And it just blows me away how corrupt the court system is and the legal system is. And I promise to share my stories with you to point that out. I'm also going to share some life issues. I mean, I'm all over the place. I come up with some crazy things, crazy ideas. I'm going to talk about America. You know, nobody talks anymore about the way that our country was founded. Everybody talks about liberty and freedom, and that's all true. But nobody talks about that our country was also founded on the concept of self-reliance. Self-reliance. Everybody makes it for themselves. Government, limited government, stay out of your way. And somewhere along the line, our country forgot about self-reliance and started putting as many people in the wagon that they could put for all of us workers to pull. And the wagon keeps getting harder and harder to pull. And some of these woke liberals say we don't care about people. That's not true. We all understand about senior citizens, don't we? Yep. We all understand about the truly disabled, don't we? Yep. We do not understand, do we? Those individuals who can work, should contribute, and they don't. They really piss us off. Some things I want to remind you about law, and I can't stress this enough. One of the reasons why I do my media show and my programming, and I do everything that I do with the media, is it's my great equalizer against a man. I've given myself this platform, and if you didn't know it, I've got over 300,000 followers on all the social media platforms combined. And in addition to that, I got like 20,000 email. I have nearly 10,000 people in my cell phone. I'm connected to a lot of people who are like-minded. I don't worry about the haters because you can never appease the haters. But fortunately for me, I have a ton of friends, allies, and fans. Now, I'm going to talk about that in more detail. But I want you to know, in the legal business, that's where I can get compensated through my consulting, and that's why I don't worry about making money with my media company, because it's really a marketing arm of my consulting. I've been in the legal game for 40 years, And I'm connected to a lot of lawyers, and particularly the Drake Law Firm and Alan Statman. And we have more medical malpractice cases than anybody. You should know that. So if you got a medical malpractice case, you should text and contact me. By the way, that's the other thing. If you're watching this show for the first time and you're not a follower of mine, something that you need to know is I give out my cell phone, 859-250-2527, and my email address, eric@ericdeters.com, and you can call me, text me, email me, and I will always respond. If I don't respond, follow up, something happened. We've tried the most cases of anybody, probably in the history of this country, in the last since 2018. We're talking about 130 medical malpractice trials. Literally trying one every 2 to 3 weeks. It's been crazy. We have an incredible group of individuals who are all about medical billing fraud. There is a massive billing fraud claim that Robert Croskery's got filed against St. Elizabeth Medical Center. It is massive case. But we have a team of nurses and former billers, including at St. Elizabeth Medical Center, that can uncover billing fraud. And that's like my number one cause, billing fraud. Fraud by corporations. Right when you think it doesn't happen again, it happens again. Look at the bank. Was it TD Bank? $3 billion in money laundering and nobody goes to jail? Are you kidding me? I also protect confidential sources. If you've got information, and I've got people in every hospital around, send me information and I will use that information. The only way the world changes, folks, if we all do things to make the world better. What else? I want you to know a little bit more about me. You can go to ericdeters.com, and you'll see there it's kind of like the reservoir, the rendezvous place of everything that we do, and you can just check it all out there, ericdeters.com. We're on every single platform there is. You can check us out there. Also, you can watch my shows, obviously, every single day. I write songs. I do politics. The Kentucky Outlaw, I'm trying to get that song in the Kid Rock's hand because I think it'll make a big difference. Let's talk about Patriots Day Freedom Fest. This you will find interesting, and I made a list of this last night. Patriots Day Freedom Fest, which is going to be September 6th of next year, is now the largest political event in the entire state of Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, and Cincinnati. It's the biggest annual political event. It kicks Fancy Farm's ass. And yet, you can't make this up. 15,000, we had 8,000, 15,000, we had 10,000 this past year. We would have had 25, 30,000 if we would have had Trump the year before that. But it's an incredible event, and it's a Trump-oriented event. Do you realize that event is that successful? Rand Paul is silent about it. Thomas Massie calls it a white supremacy organization. It's blackballed and not spoken about or promoted by the Kentucky, Ohio, Kenton, Pendleton, Grant, Boone Campbell, Warren, Butler, Dearborn, Hamilton County Republican parties. None of them. It's not mentioned by the Inquirer except after the fact trying to make it bad. No one runs a story about it up and coming. Not 5, 9, 12, 19, the Inquirer, Link, Northern Kentucky Tribune, Courier Journal, Lexington Herald Leader. Nobody mentions it. Now, you start seeing why I bond with Trump a little bit. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? And what happens is they failed to try to marginalize me because I'm fighting them. So they don't want anybody to know about me because I'm almost a competitor in the media game with them. But they're just not fair. All the while trying to act like they're fair. You ought to pick up an Inquirer and listen to what they're writing about. It's a joke what they cover for the most part. And they can't do a story about the upcoming Patriots Day Freedom Fest. See, just like the national media hates Trump that bad, the local media hates me that bad. Now, here is something I want to promote. And folks, by the way, it's my podcast, so excuse me for promoting stuff I'm connected to. And this again, is important for you to understand about the media. And remember, I'm giving you an overview of what I'm going to do here. I'm going to be a hellraiser for myself, for my clients, for my friends, for my fans, and I'm willing to do that for you. Now, it is true, a lot of times people will send me information that I don't think I can use, I don't want to use, but I'm always honest about it. I usually tell you why I can't say it or I don't want to say it. But folks, you do not have an outlet in these parts that you can use like you can with me. Now, this is a book that I wrote, and by the way, it is well written. The story is the most incredible legal story in the history of this country. It is. The true story of medical terrorists, corporate healthcare greed, and a corrupt legal system. This book release had over 300 people attend. Now, I was there when Willie's book release was there because I wrote the book. This book release was bigger, had more people attend. Not one tri-state, Kentucky, Ohio news agency reported on this event, the release of this book. Why? You need to know this. They're all owned together. See, the largest advertisers after automobile, I knew this from WLW days. Auto dealers advertise the most. After automobile dealers, corporate healthcare, the hospitals advertise with our local TV stations more than anybody else. They spend the moolah. So the tri-state media has lost their independence and won't report anything that's negative about the hospitals, which, when Daryl Parks ran 700 WLW, had a policy, that's never going to happen with 700 WLW. Now, their hatred for me. Now, you can't make this up. Have any of you heard of Redwood School? Redwood. It's a very popular school for the disabled in northern Kentucky. Very popular. And you can't make this up. My brother Seth, who was afflicted with cerebral palsy as a baby, who has carved out an incredible life for himself, including working on the family farm and attending Simon Kenton High School events. I wrote a book, nice, easy-to-read book, 125 pages, about my brother life, Seth, about his experience with Redwood and everything else. Guess who else didn't say or do a single thing to promote this book? The same Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati media. A book about someone afflicted with cerebral palsy who still carved out a wonderful life for himself. He's 60 years old now. I'm 61. It is an incredible little story. Nope, not interested in that either. Now, if you think I'm complaining, but I'm also laughing. Because what they've done is they've sent the clear word to me, and it's like, okay, it's on. It's me versus you. I'm big enough, bad enough to beat you, and I will. Now, this is what's going on in the Dr. Durrani litigation is the most evil stuff. You know, you hear about these people that have been in jail for 30 years or 20 years and they get out. That's bad. That's bad. But that's focused on one person. From a collectiveness of how many people have been harmed and damaged and the story itself, you can't make this up. And the tri-state media covered it when it first started happening, and then Channel 5 did a series, but then they've forgotten about it because there's so much more that's happened, like Medical Protective, the largest insurance company, insuring doctors, billions in revenues, billions in reserves, owned by Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, would not pay 400 victims of Durrani an average of $100,000 apiece in 2013. And they would rather pay lawyers $100,000 to defend a claim that they know they're going to lose. Verdicts have been almost $400 million. $60 million of that is covered under the $40 million policy. So they're already effed on the policy. Warren Buffett brags he gave $5 billion away last year, but he couldn't say, yeah, pay these people their $40 million bucks. And the number of people in this who have just failed to do anything that they should do based on their positions. Warren Buffett, Tim Kenesey, the MedPro CEO, Bob Ignatiak, the MedPro VP, Rick Marcello, the MedPro adjuster, former Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor. Her story in this is evil. Current Chief Justice, former Justice Susan French, wrote a decision and then left to go work at a $200,000 Public Utilities Commission chair in Ohio after losing. That's what she did. Current Chief Justice Sharon Kennedy. Current governor and former AG Governor DeWine. Not a thing. The Ohio Supreme Court, the Ohio State Legislature, the Ohio Court of Appeals, the Ohio Court of Claims, all the Hamilton County judges, the U.S. District Attorneys, federal and state prosecutors, federal judges, and then the press, the Ohio Columbus Dispatch, the Enquirer, all the local press. It is truly amazing what these buck-washing, bootless, brassy bugbears have done. There's a Shakespeare insult for you today. Imballistic lickspittles is what they are. You know what a lickspittle is? A yes person. And that's what they are. Ladies and gentlemen, the American Jury and Bulldog Nation, let me go into my final bit with this. This country, and it's what's going on with Trump. The reason why they want to defeat Trump at all costs, and this is another thing nobody talks about but me. We would not have ever discovered the depths of the swamp had Trump didn't win in 2016. The revelations that have come from Trump being there, and he made mistakes because he appointed Bushies at Attorney General, Bushies at the FBI. That's not going to happen next time. And they know he learned his lesson. So you have the teacup Republicans led by Mitt Romney and Michael Pence, and the swamp Democrats who are scared to death to have Trump in that position because they know he will end them as they've been able to do. Now, that same thing applies to me, folks. These people in the northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area, and the state of Kentucky feel the same way about me. When I ran for governor, I finished fourth, first time I ever ran for a statewide race. I finished fourth out of 12 people, including defeating the state auditor, who'd ran statewide a lot of times, and the mayor down in, not Paducah, forget the town, Somerset. That mayor, Alan Keck, good guy. By the way, I like both Mike and Alan, but I beat them both. The Kentucky State Press only reported on the top 5 candidates, less me. They didn't want to cover me. Courier-Journal would do special, not me. And I still finished fourth, behind Daniel Cameron, endorsed by Trump accidentally, Ryan Qualls, the ag secretary, and Kelly Craft, who spent $10 million. I finished right behind them. The state press didn't want me in there. What's so funny about it is they can't handle the fact the liberal media should be all over the story of the butcher of Pakistan. We rail against the Republican Supreme Court and the Republican legend. They should be all over it. But because I'm a Trump supporter, they just can't handle it. They just can't handle it. It's truly amazing. They just can't handle that. But I'm glad that I have this lane all to myself because I get to speak out on this Durrani litigation. And by the way, this is going to just crush my enemies when the time comes. Crush them. And it's this. The time's going to come when the Butcher of Pakistan story is going to hit the screen. Little screen, big screen, documentary, scripted series, movie, whatever, or all three. And when it does, I mean, Hollywood's been interested in it, but I'm holding back right now for good reason. Jamie Spindley, my good mate, who follows me around all day, doing things for me, and videotaping and photographing the events that take place during the Durrani litigation, will tell you it is off the chart. Jamie, you watch Netflix shows, right?
Yeah, all the time.
Where would you stack up the Durrani story next to the very best Netflix shows you've seen?
Right about the top. It's like every time I see a new show, I can't believe the Butcher of Pakistan is not there.
Right.
It's like, I think, how can it not be there? This is like
right.
worthy.
Right. It'll get discovered, and when it gets discovered, it's going to be huge. But that's going to catapult me. When that happens, it's going to be my revenge, because when that hits the national stage, people are going to say, man, that's a good guy. See, just like they try to say to Trump, he is a threat to democracy, they call me, oh, he's toxic. They'll say he's crazy. They say all this stuff about me. This is the way they do Trump. What they really are is they're scared to death. And they want to end Trump, and they want to end me to shut us up. And that's never going to happen. That is never. You think Trump's ever going to shut up? Trump's never going to shut up. Oh, here's another thing that I really relish. I relish this great relationship that I have with the Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., and Kimberly Guilfoyle. And I think that's another reason why they hate me. It's like I'm in Trump world. On top of all of that, they know that. So I hope you are going to enjoy the podcast. Like I said, I'm going to do this every day, Monday through Wednesday. So that's not every day. And it's an hour long. I think I just proved that I can talk for an hour without commercials and get it done. And I even went over a whole bunch of different topics. I didn't focus because I want to give you a feel for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Trump. I'm going to talk about law. I'm going to talk about politics. I'm going to talk about fighting the man. I'm going to talk about life. I got some great stuff about just life to tell you. And again, I'm a sinner, not a saint. I'm not going to come at you as a self-righteous person. I'm going to come to you as an amateur philosopher and thinker, which I'm always thinking. But we'll throw in history. You know, we'll talk about sports if the biggest issue of the day is sports. I've got an incredible background in all these things, which will allow me to talk about it. I've not been the greatest businessman in the world, but I understand business. So we'll talk some business. It's really blown my mind of what's happened in the restaurant business, both locally and across the country, how bad COVID did. And don't forget that, folks. I fought for the healthcare workers here in this area more than anybody else. I spent $50,000, my own money, paying a lawyer to make arguments for you. I did that. And you were appreciative of it. I was honored to do it. I love music. We'll probably talk about some music. You know, I've written that song, The Kentucky Outlaw. If you check it out on YouTube or the lyrics, I think you'll agree with me that it's a damn good song and it'd be perfect for Kid Rock. I want Kid Rock to do it. So we're going to talk about all these things, and I will not be repetitive. By the way, Patriots Day Freedom Fest. You know what I did my speech on? I did my speech on how I believe Donald Trump has led the most incredible American life over everyone. And if you say, well, how do I figure that? Well, he conquered the business world. He conquered Hollywood. He conquered the sports world through the UFC, WWE, the USFL that he was involved in. And then he got elected president of the United States. And that's the kind of things like Mark Cuban hates so much. See, in Zuckerberg, these guys are billionaires. Well, Trump was a billionaire, and then he became president. The other thing I spoke about in my speech is he is the most amazing, resilient political figure. It used to be Bill Clinton. Oh, well, he came back from Jennifer Flowers. Look what they've put Trump through, was my speech. I mean, I brought the impeachments, the Mueller investigation, all the lawsuits, everything. And he's still standing. He's even survived assassination attempts. That's Donald Trump. So, in my opinion, it's the greatest American life. Oh, Miss USA and USA pageants, too. I mean, he was a playboy. So when you think about what this guy has done in his life, and he raised some good kids, too. He may have been married 3 times, but he had some great kids. His kids are great kids. So he's been a successful father and grandfather. So you take all of that, his life, and then you take what he's done as a political figure. If he wins, and he will win this election, only president besides Grover Cleveland, split term, he's going to reverse he's going to save America for the second time. And he's right there. Who I believe the greatest presidents, Washington, Lincoln, FDR. Now, FDR is not one of my favorites, but you got to say FDR because he was 3.5 terms, Depression, World War II. Then after that, my favorite presidents, and I think the greatest presidents, in no particular order, Harry Truman, Andrew Jackson, Ronald Reagan, Teddy Roosevelt, and Donald Trump.
Who's the worst?
The worst president is Joe Biden, followed by Barack Obama, followed by George Bush. When these presidential so-called historians say Buchanan or Millard Fillmore and these Warren Harding, these unknown presidents, you have to decide who's the worst president based upon the harm they've caused. None of those 2-bit presidents have caused the harm of Biden, Obama, and George Bush 43. LBJ, he caused some harm too, but he's not as bad as those 3. Some of those social policies we needed. So there you have it, folks. That's what I'm going to cover. I hope you enjoy the show. Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesday, we're going to give it a whirl. Thank you for tuning in. Every dog has their day. Oh, I'm also going to say this. TR, my mantra, aggressive. This is what the show is going to be all about. Aggressive fighting for the right is the noblest sport the world affords. That's TR. That's me. That's what I do for a living. I believe in the causes. So every dog has their day. Hope today is yours.